Good afternoon, music world. John here from What's Spinning, here today to chat about another album that, in my book is a real reason why I do what I do here on YouTube and chat about music as much as I do. Already chatted about Nine Inch Nails' The Downward Spiral this week, and I have three more of these sort of old school reviews coming your way in the next few days. But today I'm here to talk about the legendary Smiths album, The Queen is Dead. If you don't already know, the Smiths are UK indie legends from the 80s. They were around for about 4 or 5 years as a group before breaking up. They consisted of Morrissey, Johnny Marr, Andy Rourke, and Mike Joyce. And when it comes to the music of the Smiths, honestly, at first, it took me a while to get into them. In my teens, a friend of mine really strongly suggested that I start with albums like Meat is Murder and their self-titled album, which eventually I did warm up to and do enjoy quite a bit now, but at the time they weren't really resonating with me, and they wouldn't until I listened to The Queen is Dead. This thing for me was like flicking a light switch on. It was a first love listen, and ever since, it still does hold a place in my heart. Now, around the time of this album, a lot of bands were, sort of setting the tone for things to come in alternative rock and indie rock, whether it be like Sonic Youth or the early days of REM or The Replacement. The Smiths really did just, match that energy, and this album here has always stood out to me. Even if the band, about a year later would disband and never reunite. And even if Morrissey ever since has become one of the most intolerable and just annoying people in modern music, my lord, this album still really does resonate with me, and it's just such a great contrast of sweet, very airy instrumentals and some of the gloomiest sad boy lyrics you'll ever hear. This album starts off with its title track, The Queen is Dead. It is an iconic start. It's one of my favorite album openers ever. From the beginning sample and the chanting to the way that the drums just pierce through everything here, and the way this track speeds up super quick and just sounds so sonically ahead of its time, honestly. If we're talking about just the way a track sounds, this is up there for me. And we have a lot going on here. The Smiths weren't known for making too many plus 6-minute tracks, but here we are. There's a lot of little details, and it works. And on tracks like this, God, this to me is the Smiths really, to quote Wu-Tang, coming together and forming Voltron in a weird way. Morrissey's lyrics on this track are both politically biting and introspective, and actually some of his best on this whole album. The jangly riff that we get, the thunderous drums, the production here, everything just comes together and works. And the urgency is real. And on top of that, not only is this track a mission statement for the album, it's kind of a mission statement for the band. And if you haven't listened to the Smiths yet, this is honestly a really great diving in point. Then we have, frankly, Mr. Shankly, which, when I think of the jangle pop genre, this is one of the first tracks that come to mind. I adore this track so much. It's light on the ears and bitingly hilarious. It's also unbearably catchy, and I think that this track is a real standout one for Morrissey, because the lyrics on this track are just so incredibly clever and genuinely well done. I Know It's Over is one of my favorite ballads of all time. And it is a true blue ballad. Is it a sad and dreary and lonely one? Yes, but still a ballad nonetheless. But it's the pacing here, the way this track takes its time, adds in one instrumental at a time. Match that all up with Morrissey's falsettos, which are absolutely gorgeous. You have a hell of a gut punch. And truthfully, this may be like the most universal statement that we've ever gotten from the Smiths or Morrissey. If you aren't into Morrissey and the Smiths at their most drab, their most lonely, this may not be for you, but also, what are you doing here? But it also has some really incredibly gut punch moments that just resonate with me every time I hear it. Like, it's so easy to laugh, it's so easy to hate, it takes strength to be gentle and kind. Yeah. It's powerful stuff. And, as a teen, I remember not really being into Never Had Anyone Ever. It's powerful stuff, and I remember being in my teens and not being into Never Had No One Ever, but I've come around to it in a huge way. It does from a distance kind of sound like a direct sort of sequel to I Know It's Over, and it does have some of the same themes, but I love the swagger to this track. I love the drama to it. Morrissey's performance is great. He seems to gloomily sashay his way through this track, and that's where I love hearing him. The drama, the build up to the chorus, the sense of finality. This track is awesome. And then we get the exact opposite in every single way with Cemetery Gates, which is one of the lightest and airiest and sweetest on the ears track, and it's a track about frolicking through a graveyard with not a care in the world. It is joyous and oddly sweet and a really nice sort of ode to doing whatever it is to make you clear your mind and forget about your troubles. And it's bleak and depressing and weird, but I would argue that few tracks with Morrissey at the helm have ever sounded more truly joyous. Big Mouth Strikes Again is just another iconic track. This was actually the lead single from this album. I love the furiously strummed riff, the urgency once again. Everything just sounds so pristine. The production across this whole album really is ahead of its time. Also, Morrissey's very snarky, very slap you right in the face lyrics on this track, A1. And I love the jangly guitar chords that just lead up very quickly to this big, boisterous chorus. It's just so sharp, and it just sounds so big, so anthemic. The Boy with the Thorn in His Side, I mean, it's just another true classic. I mean, Morrissey has come out and said this is his favorite Smiths track. It's another major single, and it's another very biting, very snark, very bitter track that gives you a lot of insight into the band. It's jangly and charming, but it's also got that somber side once again. And vocal-wise, it's arguably one of Morrissey's best performances. It's brilliant. Vicar in a Tutu, I really love this track as well. It reminds me a lot of the same feelings of Cemetery Gates earlier. It's an upbeat, sort of weirdo jam that has Morrissey, once again, having a lot of fun, poking some fun at religion, dare I say, letting loose. And that goes for the whole band, because the four of them together sound, very vibrant on this track, like they're having a lot of fun. It may not be their biggest statement, but it's a blast. And there's a light that never goes out. I mean, there's a reason that it's shown up from everywhere, from Orange is the New Black to 500 Days of Summer. It's one of the gloomiest yet oddly human ballads I've ever heard. It's full of depressing love and teenage angst up against this, very nocturnal, very gloomy instrumental, and another really memorable performance all around. It's truly one of my favorite songs of all time. Does anybody have a tissue? I mean, if there's one track on here that's never really, resonated with me, really, really strongly, it would be the finale here. Some Girls Are Bigger Than Others. I mean, it does have Morrissey's wit, and some of the production tricks on this track are really great. Sonically, it sounds good, but I personally don't think it's the strongest finale. It's not that much of a gut punch, but outside of that, there's a reason why this album is so, revered as it is, and one of the most telling experiments of where alternative and indie rock is going ever. It's a smorgasbord of the gloomiest lyrics you'll ever heard set up against some really sweet and charming instrumentals. I mean, the band brought their A-game. The production is so ahead of its time. Lyrically, it's a blast, and honestly, this album is a classic in every sense of the word. But let me know what you all think about this one. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know what you all would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.